the apocalypse as usual. Humanity's last defenders stalk the New York underground on the hunt for the Dark One, their disembodied nemesis. One of their number, a free bot, falls prey to a trap and collapses into a sorrowful heap. Rather than simply switching off, he twitches and gasps. His human compadres look on in despair, lodged in their casements of flesh, unsure how one even goes about comforting a dying automaton. Robot Holocaust, episode 110, isn't the first movie to grant its robot characters disproportionately maudlin death scenes. Sweetie has plenty of opportunity to say her last goodbyes in Warrior of the Lost World, as she's slowly crushed under mecha weapons and monster tires. Her screen and disembodied voice are the last parts of her to go. Both these scenes probably have their progenitor in R2-D2's destruction in Star Wars, and all three share the same twist. Later the robots turn up again, miraculously good as new. It's a bit hard by now to tell where consciousness resides, if it can be snuffed out and conjured again so readily. If robots are truly alive, and they must be, otherwise whence the sentiment over their ends, then their existence must be miraculous, as life is miraculous. But in this case, how are they repaired so easily? Is life an unknowable mystery, or is it laid out on a blueprint somewhere? The robots may be immortal, but the humans die pretty quick, as Robot Holocaust reminds us many times. In fact, things have gotten so bad, the last remaining people are underground for the most part, the air on the Earth's surface having become too toxic to breathe. Heroes have been stealing to subterranean layers and boiler rooms to uncover vast conspiracies since Soylent Green and being from another planet. But now we're starting to see these catacombs retooled into places of refuge. This demonstrates a certain broad cultural trajectory, something like the inverse of Martin Luther King Jr.'s historical arc that bends toward justice. The dominant imagination in recent decades has aspired upward more often than down, for better or for worse. We've seen ever more refinements in aerospace, the heavenly dreams of Bridie Murphy and L. Ron Hubbard, the various UFO flaps and scares, the constant fear of airborne nuclear destruction. One by one, these old tropes are getting more complicated or less applicable. Plans to colonize the galaxy have drifted away, along with the domed forest aboard the Valley Forge. Outer space's latest betrayal has come in the explosion of Space Shuttle Challenger this year. Nobody seems to want to believe in flaky reincarnation fantasies anymore. Culture's standard bearers are starting to shrug off the question of whether there's any afterlife at all, at least if Carl Sagan's any indication. And as often as not, UFOs turn out to be our own experimental planes. Hell, the Cold War itself is shaping up to be a shaggy dog. The terrifying simplicity of the Cuban Missile Crisis has metastasized into the muddled Iran-Contra scandal. It's hard to know what actually went on during Iran-Contra. At the very least, though, the confused American populace must now contend with the possibility that its most dedicated Cold Warriors participated in large-scale drug trafficking and negotiated with terrorists. What's the point in watching the skies off the Florida coast if the Cessna flying in 10 kilos from Bogota is doing it under CIA cover? Finding no answers in the air, science fiction has gone literally underground. And who can blame it? All the denizens of the Robot Holocaust show signs of the rootlessness that comes from seeking shelter. Even Deja, the Dark One's second in command. Seemingly human throughout, and so a traitor to humanity's cause, Deja is revealed at the end to be a robot. The Dark One, having tired of her, smites the flesh from her face and condemns her to die. Her throes are something like the opposite of the resurrected robots. For one, her death promises to be permanent. Who, after all, is going to save her, now that her master has forsaken her? And she has poisoned all her other alliances. What's more, no one pities her suffering, and no one will grieve for her. She can't even be coaxed into grieving for herself. When it's clear she has no future, she bitterly sabotages the mechanism the robots use to control the humans, thereby sealing all their fates.
I just met.
She meanwhile laments.
I was never really alive.
In her perpetual subterranean existence, maybe she never was. Similar laments lilt from the lips of Molly Mokimbe, the Haitian voodoo princess of Zombie Nightmare, episode 604. Screenwriter John Fasano doesn't describe Molly's relationship to the largely white Western culture around her in much detail. She's the one the local residents go to when they need to reanimate a body or cast a curse, and that's about all we know. But most of her seems to be made of sadness. Her words come in a tremulous whisper, and when she speaks, it's usually to issue a regretful warning or bewail the futility of existence. Molly has reason to be sad. When she was a child, ruffians attacked and nearly raped her, and murdered a young man who tried to save her. An incident the movie gives us as prologue. Today her community shuns her as a crazy old bat. The uninitiated are warned to keep their distance. Molly's sorrow may be a function of the story, but not necessarily her social isolation. Her tormentors in the film are primarily white. The hooligans in the prologue, the corrupt police detective who has secretly been persecuting her for decades, and the gang of modern-day youths who engage in petty and not-so-petty criminality throughout the film. Their whiteness, however, is a late revision. Director Jack Brovman originally pictured an all-black cast for the film. He changed his mind before shooting when he learned that several countries on the international movie distribution market only work with majority white films. We can merely wonder what Zombie Nightmare would have looked like with its originally intended cast, but it's tempting to imagine a play off the sentiment of Hollywood Shuffle. This parodic title, released in the last year, has a trajectory like the blaxploitation Zombie Nightmare that might have been. Its broad-ranging, if often careless, riff on the pastiche satirical style includes undead zombies in a movie being reviewed for a Siskel and Ebert knockoff sketch. And a tight-knit group of youths, this time law-abiding black community actors in conflict with the Hollywood studio system. We must abandon the film that could have been for the one that was. As it happens, Zombie Nightmare retrieves one of the more racially problematic traditions in American cinema. This would be the mid-century voodoo horror. In 1932, White Zombie arguably inaugurated this cinematic movement, which reached its apogee with The Emperor Jones, and after the Hays Code Revolution, descended into the B-movie swamps with whitewashed titles like The Corpse Vanishes. George Romero's Living Dead trilogy, with its ghoul as contagion narrative and progressive racial politics, seemed to have supplanted the Haitian voodoo model for good. But Bravman dares to buck this trend and instead goes with the older style, where the zombie is enthralled to an evil magician and usually the embodiment of some local curse or quest for revenge. Like Being from Another Planet, Zombie Nightmare is so diffuse that unprocessed psychosexual complexes bubble up at times, either through some quirk of the writers, performance, and crew, or simply as a result of the often challenging signal-to-noise ratio in low-budget film. In the many long scenes of the zombie wandering about in his post-terminal days, the focus occasionally goes in and out for no apparent reason. When this happens, it's hard to tell if it's some high-concept cinematography meant to dynamically represent the zombie's state of mind, or just an absent-minded jostling of the focus knob. Elsewhere, the movie's anti-hero Jim inexplicably blurts out that he wants to make
my older sister.
And we're left to wonder whether this is an ad-lib. Perhaps Fasano harbors such taboo desires himself. Maybe it's a joke that's fallen flat. It's this sort of washed-out obscenity that makes Zombie Nightmare an inheritor of the cinema verite style, this alleged propensity of low-budget grindhouse horror to be at its best when it's at its cheapest, when the obstacles of artistry and formal composition have been stripped away to reveal human experience at its most visceral. You can make a case for the compelling amateur grit of films like Carnival of Souls, Night of the Living Dead, and Last House on the Left, which have all been commonly accused of having a verite style. But movies in general have just gotten a bit worse looking since the advent of direct-to-video, or maybe cinema as a whole has lost its luster. Pauline Kael had already grown weary of it in trash art and the movies, and it's had nearly 2 decades since to bake in the California sun and draw buzzards. In the stories of 1987, television is there even at our most intimate moments. It's screenwriter John Hughes' Some Kind of Wonderful, and our Fey hero Keith is wondering how his best pal Watts knows Amanda, the waspy object of his affections, will likely wrap her hands around his neck for their first kiss.
I watch a lot of TV.
Watts explains. Callow, Watts, and Keith are both new to the art of love. But are we to believe the girl has never purloined a romantic kiss? Has she never played a pre-adolescent unsupervised game of doctor with one friend, or heard gossip from another, or had a talk about the birds and the bees? No. Watts has learned about the facts of life from television, and that means television has become fused to her being in a way that formative sexual experiences are known to do. Notice Watts could have also said that she thinks Amanda will wrap her arms around Keith's neck because that's what Watts would like to do. That she doesn't say this is the teen romance's core conceit. Strictly friends, she and Keith studiously avoid any flirtation, any acknowledgement of their obvious requited interest. All this is true, but there's something pointed about her use of television in particular as a patsy for her forbidden desire. Like the kids in River's Edge, another recent tale for teens, Watts is afflicted with a curious discontent that's equal parts hormonal angst and legitimate antisocial grievance. In her style of making out, she also evidences a syndrome coterminous with the River's Edge kids. A dumbstruck confusion, the numbness that descends on the gang after one of them murders another. Here, though, the numbness has migrated from the realm of Thanatos to that of Eros. The otherwise not at all similar broadcast news has a scene reminiscent of the self-referential smooch in Some Kind of Wonderful. Tom and Jane, TV reporters, steal a semi-secluded moment on the streets of Washington, D.C., and Tom takes the opportunity not to kiss Jane as convention would have it. Instead, he politely fondles her breast through her clothes. "At least kiss me when you do that," she chides him, joking but dumbfounded. The objective in both makeout scenes is not to coax a romantic sentiment in the audience. These aren't tearjerker moments. Rather, they convey a knowingness, a presumed mutual acknowledgement that both auteur and audience have seen the standard movie kiss many times and are ready for a twist, a thwarting of expectations. Such postmodernist gimmickry diminishes the overall impact of the kiss that eventually does happen in broadcast news, and that's part of the point. Writer-director James Brooks's script studiously avoids sparking any passionate brushfires. He has Tom and Jane share a superficial physical attraction but no real compatibility. Jane keeps another courtship from older, wiser reporter Aaron strictly platonic, though this isn't for want of trying on Aaron's part. Broadcast news ends with Jane refusing both suitors to focus on her career. Here we see an emerging Hollywood trend. Professional women are turning up left and right in movies like Baby Boom and The Witches of Eastwick. And though this is good news for social progress, it still means that with broadcast news, we're stuck watching a romantic picture that offers no romantic payoff. What would be the source of this overarching emotional detachment? Why, the media. All three characters live in and on the apparatus of television. They depend on it for the roofs over their heads. In the movie's other famous scene, handsome Tom regales giddy Jane on the joys of having an organic relationship between a TV news anchor and his in-ear producer.
You're an amazing woman. What a feeling having you inside my head. Indescribable. You knew just when to feed me the next line. You knew the second before I needed it. There was like a rhythm we got into. It was like great sex.
Here, as in Some Kind of Wonderful, the carnal impulse bypasses the immediate bodily subject for the media surrogate. Like Watts and Keith, Tom and Jane are practically on top of each other. William Hurt as Tom even gives Holly Hunter as Jane's chair a vigorous shake, mimicking intercourse. But their true libidinal investment is channeled not to the immediate object of their desire. It instead arcs toward television. All Tom really cares about is the well-executed news segment he and Jane just sent out live. In Some Kind of Wonderful, the true focus of Watts' sentiment is the TV programming she recollects from her formative years. Another reason our four heroes all seem to have just taken cold showers is that they're all contending with war in one way or another. War smothers desire in the healthy and stokes it in the unwell. Watts and Kevin's war is between rival high school cliques, and though this might seem frivolous to an adult audience, these matters are often grave to teenagers. Keith's interest in Amanda crosses social and class boundaries. Her family makes a lot more money and runs in haughtier circles. In addition to provoking Watts' latent proletarian sentiments, this makes her legitimately question, and so blunts her desire for Keith. Who is this boy she thought she'd had a crush on all this time? The wars in broadcast news are literal. Jane and Tom find themselves out on the town in Washington because Jane has just balked at going through a security checkpoint, one of many that have started cropping up around the nation's capital. Hostile relations with Iran and Libya have put the country on a more alert footing. Much of Tom, Jane, and Aaron's reportage has to do with the ongoing feud between Reagan and Libya's ruler, Muammar Gaddafi, which has worsened since the Gipper ordered a controversial airstrike on Libya last year. The attack is rumored to have killed one of Gaddafi's daughters. From his living room, Aaron watches Tom deliver a TV news report on his feud and gives Jane information over the phone, which she then relays to the anchor via earpiece.
I say it here.
Aaron observes in the register of Albert Brooks's trademark comedic incredulity, gesturing at the screen.
Here it comes out there.
Administration's next step.
By now, the instances of television vectoring this essentialist interplay between sex and death have gotten so numerous that pointing them out seems like piling on.
One-way ticket back. I can sing while I read. I am singing and reading both.
The Libyan MiG-21 dropped all 4 of its bombs on the U.S. air.